What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of NFL Turf Talk right here on DSM Media. If you're not already following DSM Media, make sure you hit that follow button at DSM_media on Twitter. And of course, make sure you're subscribed on the YouTube channel as well. Hope everybody is excited today. We got huge, obviously, it's the first day of the NFL playoffs. So we got 3 days straight of NFL wild card football. Before we dive into that, I have a very special guest joining me today, my man Sam Wagman. You guys should already know him, but if you don't, make sure you hit that follow button for Sam as well. You can find him on Twitter at Swagman95. Sam, how are you doing today, my friend?
Oh, man, I'm pumped up. It is playoff weekend. We got our team playing tomorrow, but we got a great slate of 6 games that are going on this weekend. And this is one of the best times of, breaking in a new year is getting to see NFL playoffs. It's beautiful time. It's a beautiful time.
100%. And I love how you opened it up there because it is a beautiful time of year. And, throughout the rest of the playoffs, we're not going to get this full schedule, this full plethora of teams playing, over a weekend. So it is an exciting time. And I'm looking forward to digging into it with you today, Sam.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's start right at the top. Before we get into specific games, I do just want to get your opinion on how the playoffs look to start here. So were there any surprises? Obviously, there was a lot of turnover in the AFC last weekend with the Colts losing. Were there any just major surprises that, caught you off guard coming into the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Raiders. It's the Steelers that getting in right at the last minute there.
Yeah.
I think we could have seen everything change if Brandon Staley wasn't, calling timeouts when he should have been just running out the clock. The Colts losing to the Jaguars was, not something that what anybody expected at all. So, I mean, this is completely different, this back end of the AFC here. And it's really going to play out in my predictions here because I don't think either of these two teams should be in the playoffs. I think the Colts and Chargers were both more deserving, played better, more complete teams, and frankly, more exciting teams to watch. So I'm picking against both of them. I'll spoil that right now, as are most of the NFL, which is going to be very interesting to see how Vegas preys on the public thinking that these teams are dust. So it's going to be very interesting to see how those play out.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, which kind of sparks my next question for you. And I'll throw this to you, but in my eyes, I look at the Chiefs and the Steelers. Like you said, the Steelers, the Raiders are a little bit more deserving, I would say, being able to close out the season the way they did. But still, even then, I would have rather seen the Chargers in there just for upside, right? Like potential. Right. You're talking about Justin Herbert. You're talking about Eckler. Down the line with the weapons they got there in LA. But nonetheless, the Raiders are there. The Steelers are in the playoffs somehow. I would have definitely rather have seen the Colts. Because the Colts were interesting, right? Like the Colts, I know they blew it against Jacksonville, but they were a team that you could see upsetting somebody in the first round because they have a good defense. They have a running game.
Yeah, but, exactly.
When you look at the matchup, Sam, I know right now I believe it's the far spread is Kansas City and Pittsburgh, and I believe it's at 12.5 the last time I checked. Would that be your game that you think is the most predictable as far as, the Chiefs are the obvious favorite here? Like, is that the team that if you had to put your life on it out of all these matchups, would you go that way, or do you have another one in mind?
So what I said before about Vegas kind of taking advantage of the betting public's ideals here, they're going to see that most people are on the Chiefs to just blow out this corpse of a Steelers team because outside of TJ Watt, this team does not, offer a lot of excitability to them.
Right.
So do I think the Chiefs are going to handily win this game? Yes. Do I think they're going to cover? given the fact that the Chiefs have shown like just an ambivalence to covering in the last 2 years, they don't cover spreads that they don't cover double-digit spreads well at all. They have not in the past. Now the playoff Chiefs are a different animal. They usually turn things up for the playoffs. They're basically the NFL's version of the Lakers. They don't care in the regular season, and they care once they get to the playoffs. I think the Steelers somehow pull out a late cover in this one. I think they probably lose by 10. But as far as being open and shut, I think this is an open and shut Chiefs victory here.
Got you. And I would definitely side with you there as well. So we will definitely get into that game a little bit more. Obviously, we'll get into all the games. We'll go at them in order here. Before we get into that, I definitely want to go through just our QB rankings for the playoffs. So before I invited Sam to the show here, obviously let him know to gather his QB rankings of the last 14 QBs that are left in the playoffs, obviously. So we have our rankings 14 through 1 situated here. Before we get into that, a little bit of housekeeping, of course. If you don't already know about it, we have extended this giveaway on all our social media platforms. So we will be doing the actual raffle tomorrow on Turf Talk at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So just to start out, if you follow us on TikTok at DSM Media, you comment, do something major. It's going to be a pinned post right when you follow us on TikTok. And then like that video, we'll get you entered in for a raffle for a black Devontae Smith alternate jersey. And it is an authentically stitched jersey from Rally House. So it is definitely real. It's definitely great quality. And then you also will get a Devontae Smith framed picture that you can obviously get signed, get autographed, whatever you want to do with that picture, hang it up on your wall. But 2 awesome gifts that you'll get if you just simply go ahead and follow DSM Media on TikTok, comment, do something major, and like the video. We'll get you entered into that raffle tomorrow. Tune in. You'll find out who wins. We do have another giveaway that is right here on YouTube. So all you got to do for this one is subscribe to DSM Media on YouTube. You comment, do something major on any one of our videos on YouTube, and we will find you. And we will enter you in to win a 2021 Eagles playoff T-shirt. As you can see, it's Nike. It's right from Rally House once again, right here in Philly. So definitely subscribe to DSM Media on YouTube. Comment the Do Something Major hashtag, and we'll get you entered in to win one of these T-shirts. And then finally, we have one right there for Twitter as well. And this one is going to be 2 different gifts, or 2 different prizes, I should say. So we're going to actually pick 2 winners from our Twitter raffle here, and one will win a tie-dye Mitchell & Ness Brian Dawkins T-shirt, and then the other one is going to be a tie-dye Mitchell & Ness Randall Cunningham T-shirt. All you have to do for that one is follow DSM Media on Twitter at DSM_media. Comment, do something major on the pinned tweet, and like that post and retweet it, and we will get you entered in to win one of these T-shirts. As I mentioned, once again, the raffle will be done tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on NFL Turf Talk, right before we preview the Eagles and Bucs game tomorrow. So definitely tune in for that. So now, to the business, right? The stuff we actually want to talk about here. So as you see on the screen here, I have Sam's 14 QBs left in the playoffs. So these are the starting 14 QBs for the last 14 playoff teams, and we have them all in order here. Now, this has nothing to do with like futures, anything like that. This is about the playoffs right here this year, and who we trust the most in their situation. So, Sam, it looks like we start out with the same. Do you want to go from the bottom up, or do you want to go top down?
We can go top down, I think.
All right, cool. So we'll just start by looking at each of them. Obviously, we got the same guy there at number 1. So I'll ask you. I'll shoot it to you first. What is the reasoning behind Tom Brady at 1? I think
it's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. There's no equal to Tom Brady. And there's no one I would trust more. There's no one who can do more with less, which is just why he's just the most dangerous QB that there is, because he's Tom Brady. He's the GOAT.
100%. I'm with you right there. Obviously, I have him at number 1 as well. The GOAT. That's enough said. Sam said it well there. Number 2, we go, a little bit of a different way there, but nonetheless, I think we still have 2 very great quarterbacks there. So you went Mahomes there. I went Rodgers. Really, I think, when you're talking about these top 3 quarterbacks, they're borderline interchangeable. Now, Tom Brady, I give him a little bit more weight just because of the amount of rings, the amount of experience he has. But Rodgers is right there. Mahomes has actually garnered a lot of experience over the last few years as well. Any particular reason you went Mahomes over Rodgers there?
Well, I think mostly because the Chiefs have a little bit of. It's kind of difficult to say because you could definitely go either way, and obviously we went 2-3 and 3-2 for them. I just think Mahomes at this point is probably more of a better talent, and he has a lot more at his disposal than Rodgers does right now. And I think Mahomes feels like he has something to prove after losing last year. And like I said before, the Chiefs are a different animal in the playoffs. They turn everything up. Mahomes is typically flawless, and I can't see a scenario where they're an easy out ever. So,
yeah, and I get that because when I think about the Packers, it's like, yes, they always play in the cold, but they will have to play in the freezing cold in their first game of the playoffs, like no matter what. Now, a team's going to have to travel. They will get the lowest seeded team, I believe. That's how it works, right? It does go by seeding. So as the teams get to the next round, they'll get the lowest seeded team that heads to the next round. So I get it. Mahomes is right there with Rodgers. I think those are interchangeable. So now we get down into the next tier quarterbacks. So we're looking at it, and it looks like we do have the same quarterbacks, just maybe in a different order there. So we have the Josh Allens of the world. We agree, number 4 right there. I guess a good question for these quarterbacks in this section. So you went Allen, Murray, Stafford, Burrow, Prescott. I went Allen, Burrow, Murray, Prescott, Stafford. So when we look at that group of quarterbacks there, who would you say has the most amount of pressure per se on them?
I think it's Kyler Murray. And I think it's Kyler Murray because this is a team that was in the one spot for the NFC most of this season. He's coming with an immense amount of hype, former number 1 overall pick. And they kind of fell apart the last month of the season. And as a result, instead of playing in Phoenix, they're playing in LA.
Right.
And they, and none are bad because their fans will travel, and LA is, close enough to Arizona that they will have a good amount of fans present. But I think this is has to be a statement game for Kyler in his career. This has to be a game where, I can overcome the adversity. I can overcome losing DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
I can overcome my coach who seems to have no idea what he's doing. So it's all of that. And, I've been a huge Cardinals fan this entire season. I think they are probably one of the second most complete team in the NFC besides the Tampa Bay Bucs. And I think that they really don't deserve to be the 5th seed. So they definitely get lost down the stretch. They're getting JJ Watt back for this game, most likely. It's a huge lift for their defense. So it'll be really key for them to stop the run game for LA and to try and do some damage against Stafford, who I have ranked at 6. And this is kind of reflecting how I think that game is going to go. I do think the Cardinals are going to beat the Rams, and I think they're going to move on.
We got the conspiracy theories out.
Interesting. Magnets? Okay.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then what are we doing here? But I'll choose to operate in a different lane. Yeah, no, I'm with you. The Murray thing is interesting, and it's funny you brought up Stafford with him because I'm looking at both of those guys as, 2 of the guys that probably have the most pressure on them. And so since you went Kyler, I'll just go Stafford and, present the case for Stafford here. But Matthew Stafford, you look at him, they traded a haul to get Matthew Stafford that included Jared Goff their number one pick, right? So when you look at it, you look at Stafford. Stafford was supposed to come in this knight in shining armor that's supposed to take McVay's offense to the next level, which in a sense he did. That offense looked very, very good at times throughout this season. But he also has this side of him that loves to throw pick sixes for some reason. And you just hope that that doesn't arise in the playoffs. The interesting thing between Kyler and Stafford is that they're both looking for their first playoff win against each other. So one of these quarterbacks is going to come away with their first playoff win in that game in LA, which we'll definitely get into that game a little bit more, which it's very interesting, as you guys can already see how it's shaping out. But yeah, I would go Stafford just because you had Jared Goff lead that team to a Super Bowl. Now, I know it was a few years ago. It was a whole different roster. Like they've totally rehauled the roster. They brought in even more superstars like Von Miller and company. So maybe the pressure isn't necessarily fully on Stafford and it's on the entire Rams organization. But I think a lot of it comes down to Stafford having to be better than Jared Goff was and take that team further than Jared Goff did, which it's hard to imagine, right? Jared Goff took them to the Super Bowl. So when you're put up against that, that's a lot of pressure. Obviously, Josh Allen has some pressure getting into the AFC Championship last year. He needs to kind of make his mark on the AFC as well. It just seems like the AFC is kind of jumbled up there.
Very jumbled,
right?
Yeah,
like
it's very jumbled.
It's hard to predict. And we'll obviously talk about the Bills and Patriots who play tonight. But the Patriots are no pushover. They beat the Bills before, so that's obviously going to be an interesting first round matchup. As we get into the last tier of quarterbacks that I would say here, so you got Hurts, Tannehill, Carr, Big Ben, Jones, Jimmy G. I have Tannehill, Hurts, Carr, Jimmy G, Jones, Big Ben. So I guess what I'll throw to you, when it comes down to those last three quarterbacks, because we have the same three quarterbacks there, we just have them in a little bit of different order. So we have Big Ben and Jimmy G switched. What would cause you to put Jimmy G as the last quarterback you trust there, I guess, is a good question to ask.
Zero faith in him being a starting quarterback.
And how much pressure does Jimmy G have on him?
If he loses his job, if he loses, so I think that's pretty accurate there. And the only reason I have Big Ben above Mac Jones and Jimmy G is I think in his last hurrah, I don't think he wants to go out looking like he has most of the season. I do think he'll put up some sort of a fight. He'll salvage something a little bit here. He wants, this guy is an elder statesman of the game. So you have to think he's going to go out in a dignified fashion. He's not going to roll over. He's not just going to, shove himself to the side and let Najee Harris rush it 35 times. He's going to go out fighting, which is why I think they're going to make it a little bit of a game.
Yeah.
And I just look, I want to see the 49ers beat the Cowboys.
Same.
But I don't think they do it behind Jimmy G doing anything. Remember, this is a team that nearly made the Super Bowl a few years ago behind Jimmy G throwing the ball like 6 times in the NFC Championship game. So this is a team that's not built around throwing the football. This is all dependent on how good Deebo Samuel will look. And that is the most important part of that team is Deebo Samuel. And it doesn't need to be him catching the ball. He can run it just as well as anybody else. And Elijah Mitchell is still kicking out there, as well as Kittle and Ayuk. So I really want to see them depend as little on Jimmy G as possible. Because if you're dependent on Jimmy G, you're going to lose. That's just a plain and simple. 100%. Same thing with Mac Jones. Same thing with Mac Jones. You're depending on Mac Jones, you're going to lose. That's how they won. They threw the ball 3 times. Yeah. So, and again, honestly, I don't think Carr plays a big part in a win today either. I think, that'll be strength on Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. It will not be on the strength of Derek Carr because – look, Derek Carr could be a world beater for all we know in the playoffs. We've never really seen him have a chance.
Yeah,
the one time Yeah, the one time he actually had a chance back in 16 or 17 when he was, going to be the MVP, broke his ankle and he was out for the season. So this is how I feel. You obviously feel the same way about Carr, that he's not going to play a huge part of the game plan. And we're kind of split on Tannehill and Hurts.
Which I guess what makes you trust Hurts a little bit more than Tannehill?
Tannehill's just not looked that good this year.
Yeah.
And I do think Jalen Hurts' rushing ability is going to be extremely key to us having any sort of shot against Tampa tomorrow. Remember, they give off the appearance of being the most stout run defense in the league, but they do give up 4.6 yards per carry. Vita Vea is pretty much one of their only guys that are healthy left. That team's been brutalized by injuries defensively. Levante David is iffy. Shaq Barrett is iffy. Jason Pierre-Paul is iffy. So, that's a lot of run gappers out for that Bucs team. So a lot's going to depend on Hurts. He's the heart and soul of our team.
Yeah.
I think we might be seeing him in a completely different light tomorrow afternoon.
I think that's a good way to put it. And, obviously we don't want to get into that game too much, but I'm with you. If it's a huge if, but it's an if that I feel that is possible. And it's Hurts. It's Hurts really like making his mark in this game. And I think it was Kyle Brandt that said it on NFL Good Morning, or Good Morning Football. Sorry, I misspoke on the name of the show there, but I believe it was Kyle Brandt that said, in order for the Eagles to win that game, Jalen Hurts is going to have one of those games where after that game, we know that he's a superstar or that he's a star, right? And that he is the quarterback for the future of the Eagles. And I 100% agree. I do agree with what you said as well. I think he's going to have to use his legs. And like you said, the Buccaneers' intimidating rush defense is a bit overrated. And, part of the issue is trying to run up the middle. The Eagles don't have to run up the middle against Vita Vea, right? You don't have to. You actually run away from him. You run to the outside zones. And Jalen Hurts is going to be involved a lot in that. So I get it. I kind of want to put Hurts above Tannehill as well there. The thing about Tannehill, I guess, is one, like you said, he has not performed that great. A lot of people had him, in the MVP conversations leading up to this season. Like he was like obviously not going to lead the way in the MVP talk, but they had him marked as like one of these, underrated MVP candidates, such as like Baker Mayfield of the world. And obviously neither of those guys performed up to that standard. But Tannehill has seen a ton of close games lately, or this entire season, I should say, against some of the top teams in the AFC. So that's why I do give a little bit of faith to him. But part of that is him making these games close as well, right? Like against Houston last weekend, it didn't need to be that close going down to the wire for Tennessee. They made it that way. So he is involved in some of that as well. So I definitely get you, but I'm looking forward to it, man. We now get into the fun part, which is the actual games, and we're going to talk a good bit about these games today, and then we'll get into the ones for tomorrow. But it's exciting, man. I mean, just looking at this list of quarterbacks, there's so many. Obviously, you have the ones up top, those three to be specific, the first three there, that are proven. They've been there before. They know what they're doing. But the rest of this list, they should all have chips on their shoulder, all have something left to prove. From Josh Allen all the way down to Jimmy G, all of these guys have room to grow and room to prove in these playoffs. And as you mentioned, Jimmy G playing for his job, right? Hurts can prove that he is the franchise guy if he can get a win, or maybe not even a win, make that game close, go head to head with Tom Brady tomorrow. Derek Carr, can he surprise us by pulling out a win against the Bengals? Can he be the reason for the win, right? Hopefully, if you're the Raiders fans, you don't want to think that way. But if it comes down to it, can he do it? So it's going to be interesting conversations all around. And these guys got a lot to prove. So now I want to get into, and I'm glad Jason brought it up, which thanks for tuning in, Jason. You got all the comments here. So I don't know if you saw, Sam, but Jason did call you the GOAT earlier. So shout out to Jason for tuning in. He did call Sam the GOAT, and I tend to agree. Joe Burrow. He says Joe Burrow is going to ball out today. I do want to talk about this Raiders-Bengals game. It's an interesting matchup. Cincinnati is a 5.5-point favorite the last time I checked, so I don't know if the lines have moved at all lately. Thoughts initially looking at this matchup, how do you think this game could play out?
Well, Vegas seems to think that the Raiders are going to cover. There's about 90% of the money on the Raiders.
Nice.
So the Sharps are just hammering that line. I think this could go the other way. I think this should be a Bengals blowout.
Okay.
There's the better offense, arguably the better defense, the better running game. Really the only disadvantage that they have is the O-line against the Raiders D-line. Max Crosby's probably going to wreak havoc against them. But if you're the Raiders, how can you possibly hope to shut down all three of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd?
Yeah, it's
so
really not possible. And looking back to their matchup, I think they played in week 11. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So the Bengals beat Las Vegas in week 11, 32-13. And that was like a huge Joe Mixon game as well. He had 2 touchdowns in that game.
Right.
So if the Bengals can get the run game going, I don't think the Raiders have like a chance. Like you mentioned the wide receivers and obviously Joe Burrow, which they have a ton of talent on the outside there. But if you can run the football with Joe Mixon as well and keep this defense on their heels, the Raiders really don't have a chance. Now, I guess a good way to pose a question, how do you think that the Raiders could win this game? Like, what would the Raiders need to do? What are their keys to victory?
You got to sack Joe Burrow a ton of times. You got to slow them down. You got to lock down Jamar Chase, because if he gets loose, you're done. And containing Joe Mixon is also going to be a key thing. But even if all that fails, the Bengals still have CJ Uzomah, who has proven to be, kind of a big boomer bust guy. Yeah. But a team like the Raiders, very weak against the tight end. And CJ Uzomah could take advantage there. Again, it's extremely hard to lock down 3 top flight wide receivers all at once, like the Bengals have. Add in Mixon and Uzomah, and you're still going to be, kind of scrapping and clawing away. I really don't think there's a path for the Raiders to win this game outside of a true, massive regression by Burrow in the past.
That's what I was.
They'll win it on his back. They'll win it on his back, of Burrow's back. But if he doesn't play well, if he looks, like someone who's never seen the NFL field before, and this is his first NFL playoff experience, but this is still a guy who's played on a national level. He's played in national championships, with LSU. We're gonna see how he performs. This is the meeting of 2 guys. If I do think this is Derek Carr's first playoff game as well. So I don't think either of them have ever been in the playoffs before. This is a new experience for both of them. This is a coach for the Raiders who's desperately trying to keep his grip on this coaching job. Zach Taylor, who was pretty much, I believe, the popular choice to be fired this year, is also playing in his first playoff game. So, I mean, a lot is on the line for these 2 teams.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. And, just to be clear, as far as these 2 organizations as a whole, the Bengals haven't been out of the first round since 1990. So that's
something.
Crazy.
That is 32 years.
32 years since the Bengals have seen the second round of the playoffs. The Raiders' last playoff win came 19 years ago, when I believe that was when they beat who did they beat to go play the Bucs? They won the AFC Championship game to go on to play the Bucs in the Super Bowl, which they lost. But apparently that was their last playoff win 19 years ago. So I believe they won this, or they went to the Super Bowl. Was that 2002 against the Bucs?
I know the Bucs won that Super Bowl. That was the Brad Johnson Super Bowl, right?
The Brad Johnson Super Bowl. I think Rich Gannon was the quarterback for the Raiders.
Right. Rich Gannon. Wow.
Waller. Waller played last week. I did not catch the Chargers and Raiders game. Obviously, he played on, was it Sunday Night Football or was that Monday night?
I
think it was Sunday night.
I think it was Sunday night. I do believe it was.
And
Sunday
how
night.
did he look?
He looked all right.
Yeah,
For a guy who hasn't played in a long time, I think he looks all right. He's not on the injury report for them.
that's great news
This
for them.
again, this is going to be a big game for, he needs to be involved if they have any chance to win at all. So
Yeah.
we're gonna see what happens there.
Who do you think is the bigger offensive piece in this game, Renfro or Waller?
Ooh, I think it's Renfro.
Nice.
I think
like
it's
that.
Renfro because in Waller's absence, Renfro has stepped up as the guy. Over 100 catches this year for them, over 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Getting in the end zone a bunch of times. Like, he needs to be involved. I think him and Waller are the two key pieces of this game. I think Josh Jacobs factors in a bunch as well. He needs to be successful on the ground if they're going to have a chance as well there.
100%. And Josh Jacobs has looked great down the stretch here.
Mhm.
Obviously not a great season for him, but these last 2 games, I do believe he went over 100 rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you talk about the Raiders and what they've gone through this season, losing Gruden, obviously, lost Ruggs. They lost a bunch of players. Damon Arnett, a former, second or first round pick for them. So,
Mm-hmm.
They've lost a ton of guys. They've gone through some turmoil. As far as them getting this win, I just think it's going to be really tough to do that against Cincinnati, this young, prospering team that's really got a lot of excitement behind them. Joe Burrow, you've already mentioned it a ton. He seems to be that guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's always been that guy in the big stage, as we saw in the national championship game. He has his guy Chase, and that it's crazy that they ended up together and what they look like in the NFL together. It's just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you. I think the Cincinnati Bengals win today. I think they also cover the 5.5 point spread, like you said. I do see them winning comfortably. I don't know if it'll be double digits. I do think it'll be 2 possession type of win for them today. And I do think we see Joe Burrow. I think we see the best version of him. If he's who I think he is, he has the stones for playoff football, and I think he's going to show it today.
Yep.
Just as far as keys for Raiders, similar to what you said, I Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue, they would have to break this game open, right? Like a sack fumble that turns into a Raiders easy possession, something that would make Joe Burrow uncomfortable. Which I just don't know if they can do it. Obviously, they've been great in the pass rush this year, so we'll see what they can do. And then simply, Derek Carr has to prove he is a good quarterback in the NFL. It's discussed so much. Is he just one of those box score guys, or is he an actually good quarterback that can win games for his team? You're going against another 10-7 team, right? They have the same record. You've played this team before. You got smashed by them, so you kind of need to redirect the script. And who knows? This could be Carr's last chance as a Raiders quarterback, right?
Yep.
We don't know what's going to happen with him in the offseason. So it's going to be interesting. I do want to get your opinion on this parlay I have for this game today. So I have Cincinnati money line. Obviously Cincinnati winning. I have a Mixon anytime touchdown. Obviously he had 2 in the first matchup, so I don't see why he wouldn't get in there at least once. I think he has 13 rushing touchdowns on the season. So why not? I have Hunter Renfro plus 40 yards receiving, and I have Higgins plus 50 yards receiving. And that's coming out at a plus 354.
I like that. I'm more of a fan of Jamar Chase this game. I think people are overlooking him for some odd reason, given the torrid end to his season.
Yeah. You think they
what
continue it?
The media or the public continues to try and fade Jamar Chase because he has this reputation of a boomer bust guy, and really I fell victim to this too. I mean, I ranked Devontae Smith over him going into the season. I mean, look where that got me.
Yeah,
and but I'm all in on Jamar Chase at this point.
So you would take Chase instead of Higgins at that 50
I would take
plus?
Chase. Yeah, because I think Chase's number is probably set at 65 to 70, and that's a smash spot because he can hit that in literally one play.
He can. No, that's a great point. So
literally one play.
I may reconsider the Higgins there. I may go with your side because Chase and Burrow, the last couple games they played, they obviously they had that outburst 2 weeks ago. So I think I'm with you. I think they may continue that. Should be interesting, man. That game's going to be fun. That's the one I'm more excited for today, to be completely honest. Obviously, we got the Bills and Patriots tonight, which I think that one is going to be more of a, I don't know. I could see that playing out two different ways. I guess we'll open up the conversation on that one now. So Patriots at Bills, they're going to head up to Buffalo. The Bills were able to come back and win that division even after falling to the Patriots earlier on in the season, in a game where Mac Jones throws the ball like 2 or 3 times. And the Patriots, completely embarrassed the Bills. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts? The Buffalo Bills are 4.5-point favorites. Last time I checked the money lines on ESPN there. So 4.5-point favorites. They're in Buffalo. What are your thoughts on this game? Do you see any part of Buffalo blowing the Patriots out, or do you think this is going to be kind of a down to the wire game?
I don't know if they blow them out. I mean, this game I think is supposed to be like a negative, like 15-degree wind chill game. So like you won't catch me up in Buffalo anytime soon.
Hell
no. But this seems like it could be a repeat of the Mac Jones 3 attempt game for New England. I think they're going to try to employ that same strategy. It's whether that works again, because remember, they got going on the ground really early with that 55-yard Damian Harris touchdown right off the bat. And they're going to try and do that again, but who says the Bills are not going to be, ready for them? This is both teams are used to playing in the cold weather. I don't think that plays as big a factor as people are going to think. I don't know about the wind. I'm more concerned about the wind than anything with this game. So we're going to see how much that plays into everything. 6 degrees right now in Orchard Park. So we're going to see. Let's see. The wind right now is at 10 degrees. By 8 o'clock, it's supposed to stay at 10 degrees. Clear visibility. Feels like -2 degrees is what they're projecting for Buffalo tonight at 8 o'clock. So that's gonna be really interesting there. The lack of wind is telling me that this could end up being a normal game script, though. Remember that game, the balls were literally moving that way. Tyler Bass had a kick pregame that literally started straight and then ended 30 yards to the right. And didn't even get to the goalpost. And it was like from 30 yards away. So we're not going to see those kind of wins in this game if this storm tracker is to be accurate. So I think this is a game where the Bills can kind of take advantage of the fact that the Patriots seemingly have no confidence in Mac Jones passing the football. And I do see that ending up being a big game for Stephon Diggs. I could see it being a big game for Josh Allen. And I do see this being a Buffalo Bills cover. I'm not sure if it's a big blowout game, but I do think it is a comfortable Bills win.
Yeah, and just to be transparent, I 100% agree. There is part of me that feels like it could be a blowout, and only because the Bills, I just feel like that first game. Now, obviously, they played them again since then. They beat them 33-21, but I just feel like this would be the Bills' time to really lock in and show, like, hey, we're simply the better team. Like, New England has Bill Belichick. They have this rookie quarterback that they're obviously not very confident in, that they're only passing it so many times. Let's go out there, play Buffalo Bill football, and blow these guys out, because we just simply have the better team, right? Like, you look at their offense, it's Josh Allen, it's Stephon Diggs, even Dawson Knox, Gabriel Davis, they've all been effective this year. And, I just think the Buffalo Bills, there is a chance that they could end up blowing them out today. As far as, like, keys for New England, there's not much that they can do that, could really propel them to me picking them to win, right? Like, there's not a lot. We haven't seen them go all out with Mac Jones, and I doubt that we will. Like, that would be kind of reckless of them to do so. So I think they're going to try to establish the run. Obviously, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, they have a plethora of backs there. Harris has been the workhorse, of course. Take as much pressure as you can off Mac Jones and try to force Allen into turnovers, right? You got to rely on your defense. That's the only way that they have a shot in this game. For the Bills, like I said, just play your game. I think Josh Allen, play loose, play your game. There's really not a ton of pressure unless you make it all in. It's all mental, right? Like it's all within himself. Just go out there and play your game. That's going to be good enough to beat the Patriots. And then just simply making Mac Jones beat you, right? You can't have a 60-yard run out of the gates there that totally turns the balance upside down. So I think the Bills do cover the spread, like you said there. And I also think there is a chance that they could end up winning this by double digits as well. As far as my parlay for this game, let me know what you're thinking. But with the Patriots defense being so tough, I do think the Bills are going to score points regardless. But I could see Allen having to run in for a touchdown at one point throughout this game, have to use his legs a good bit. So I do have Josh Allen anytime touchdown in this game. It's going to be cold. You know, if the wind is acting up, if it is not, obviously there will be more throwing in the game. But nonetheless, I do see Josh Allen doing whatever it takes in this game to win, which would maybe institute getting a rushing touchdown there. I have Knox plus 29.5 yards receiving, which give or take, that should be okay. He usually likes Knox. He's one of his more favorite receivers there, his more favorite targets. I do have Aguilar plus 27.5. That one I'm a little iffy on, just because if the Patriots come out and just simply don't pass the football, right, what are the odds that he could get that? So that might be one I leave off there. I may throw Diggs on there instead at 60-plus receiving yards. Hearing you say that he could have a big game kind of makes me think, yeah, it's time for Diggs to kind of show up. And where better to do it than against New England? And then I also have Damian Harris plus 40 yards rushing. I think they're going to try to pound him into the ground. So,
why
wouldn't he get 40 yards? I mean, that's not asking much. But that one. So anytime touchdown, Josh Allen, Knox plus 29.5 receiving yards. Aguilar plus 27.5 receiving yards, which I may take that out for Diggs. I don't know yet. And then Harris plus 40 yards rushing. That's actually sitting at plus 1280. So that's actually a really nice odds there. Obviously,
that Josh Allen TD bumps it up a lot.
Exactly.
I usually stay away from tight ends against the Patriots. They're the number one ranked defense in the league against tight ends. I'd be more in on big Stephon Diggs game. Potentially Cole Beasley working the slot against them.
I like that one too.
There. But I like that as well. The Josh Allen TD I could definitely get on board with.
Gotcha. So I may want to look at that Knox then. That Knox 29.5. They can eliminate him. All right. So we both got Buffalo covering the spread. We both got Buffalo winning. So we got Buffalo and Cincinnati. We agree across the board there today. Want to finish up. Obviously, we want to get out of here within an hour. So we'll breeze through these games tomorrow, and then obviously the one game on Monday night. But obviously, we're going to get into Eagles Bucs tomorrow. We don't need to spend any time on that. We'll move to the 49ers and Dallas. So obviously, San Fran is traveling to Dallas tomorrow at 4:30. Looks like Dallas is a 3-point favorite, which at home, is that really a favorite, right? That usually means it's a pretty even spread there. What are your thoughts coming into this game? I know you shared your thoughts on Jimmy G. I guess a good place to start. Obviously, you don't think that the 49ers can win behind Jimmy G's arm. How do the 49ers come out and beat this Dallas team today?
Running it down their throats and Deebo Samuel having a good game. That's the way to do it. So
Very simple.
That is the way to do it. This should end up being probably the best game of the week.
Yeah.
+3 for the 49ers. Dallas playing at home. I want to see the 49ers win, not just because I am a non-Cowboys fan, but because I think that the 49ers are legitimately the better team. They match up. They're probably the best matchup in the playoffs for the Cowboys.
I agree.
Built to take them away. The defensive line is primed to make Dak Prescott's life a very, very long day for him. So that's how I hope that plays out. And honestly, it really will depend on how the running game shakes out against this Dallas front, containing Micah Parsons. And doing that will make this a very arduous challenge for San Fran, but I think they can overcome it.
Got you. And so when we look at the other end of the scope, how can Dallas win this game? Obviously, they would have to stop the run, but like, what are some keys for them to getting the offense going? Getting some of those turnovers on defense, maybe. But what are your thoughts on Dallas?
Well, definitely getting turnovers on defense, attacking Jimmy G, pressuring Jimmy G, making him throw off schedule. But look, Dak has to have a good game. Dak can't come out with one of these 1 touchdown, 1 interception games like he's had at a few points this season. Dak has to come out strong. He has to come out like he did against us, against Washington the last few weeks. He needs to show that he is truly a transcendent quarterback to come out, because that's how Dallas wins these games. They don't win behind Zeke anymore. Zeke is kind of just there to punch things in at the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
But they're gonna win behind the strength of their receivers and Dak at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because, along with Dak, it's, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. These guys got to win their battles, right? Like, they've been very ineffective, both of these guys down the stretch for Dallas. You just haven't heard much from CeeDee or Amari Cooper. So definitely getting them involved, but it starts with Dak Prescott, as you said. When you look in that backfield, who do you think is going to be the more effective back? It seems as Pollard has been the guy this year, in my opinion. So obviously I didn't watch every Cowboys game, but when I did watch the Cowboys, Pollard just looks like the more explosive, the more well-rounded back. Do you see him being more effective against San Fran, or do you think it is Zeke's up the middle, grueling type of physical running?
I think Pollard plays a decent part in this game. I think he's recovered enough from that plantar fasciitis that he can play a good role. Him bouncing outside will definitely be good. They want to stay away from Nick Bosa and the other defensive linemen that are in that run gapping scheme for San Fran. I think Pollard plays a good amount.
I like that. And then you mentioned Nick Bosa there. Who do you think has a bigger game, Michael Parsons or Nick Bosa?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think I want to say it's going to be Bosa. I do think Bosa is fresh off not being able to compete last year due to that ACL tear. I think he really wants to put a statement game on the line.
Yeah.
Not only is he their linchpin in the defense, he is basically the heart and soul of that defense. So he's got to perform if this team's going to move on.
And San Fran has the better offensive line, right? So
I think Dallas is still up there. I think they're both top 10 units at this point.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. So we'll see how it plays out. So I'm getting the feeling you think San Fran's going to win this game.
I'm not sure, honestly. I'm really split on it. It could go either way. Like I said, it should be the best game of the slate.
And I do believe it is is it the closest spread?
I believe it is +3. So yes,
I believe it is. So so San Fran, Dallas. I did pick San Fran to win. Now, the score that I predict, obviously take it with a grain of salt. I had 24-20. Just not a low scoring game, not a high scoring game, right there in between. But nonetheless, I think it will be a close 1 possession game, and I do think Dallas will have a chance to win, if not win. So nothing. And I'm not here to shit on Dallas Cowboys. They've had a great season. I think they just got really unlucky with their first round opponent. Honestly, I think you look down the list of who they could have played. Obviously, they would have rather played the Eagles, but San Fran is just a really, really tough matchup. I think I would have almost, if I'm Dallas, I would have almost rather played the Arizona Cardinals, and I know they just lost to them, but you just look at recipes and, pressure, and it just seems like San Fran has all the tools to take the pressure off Jimmy G, as they've shown in the past. So it'll make for an interesting game. The parlay I have for this one, it's sitting at +363. So I have a Debo anytime touchdown. Obviously, as you mentioned, I think no matter what, he's always involved. And he usually can get in the end zone, whether it's on the ground or through the air. I have +40 yards receiving for Debo. So I'm interested in your opinion. Do you think he's going to have a better game receiving or a better game rushing. He could get plus 40 in both for all we know, but what are you thinking there?
Receiving. Definitely. Yeah.
And then I do have CD Lamb on here, plus 50 yards receiving. My thoughts on this is just that he's going to have to be involved for the Dallas Cowboys to compete in this game. And I do look at CD as their best wide receiver. I also have Schultz here at plus 25 yards receiving. I thought about putting him in for the anytime touchdown just because Dak has loved him in the red zone. Now, if I put him in for plus 25 yards and the touchdown, boost those odds right up to 11 plus 1144. So that anytime touchdown is something I'm considering there.
I like it, honestly. I don't think there's really anything to go wrong with that one. I like the CD Lamb prop a lot. So I think that's a good one.
I like it. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. So I'll definitely plug that one in. I got to think about the Schultz TD. I may not risk it, but that does seem to be a good one. That should be a nice game. Next game is going to be Kansas City hosting Pittsburgh. We talked about this one a little bit at the beginning. Something I wanted to throw to you, and obviously last time I checked, it was at a 12.5-point spread. I don't know if the lines have moved even more. Big Ben, leading up to this game, he was interviewed, and he said something that stuck out to me. Of the 14 teams that made the playoffs, we're probably 14th right now. And basically, throwing all the credit in the world to Kansas City, kind of bowing down in a sense through his comments. You have to wonder if it is a little bit of like a mental warfare trying to get Kansas City to think that they're, not feeling very confident coming into this game. But I don't know, just not something I want to hear from my quarterback leading into a playoff game. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts leading into this game? Obviously, it's the most far spread. I know your thoughts earlier. You said, you think that Pittsburgh can give it somewhat of a game, more than what, the odds are showing there. I guess a good starting point. How can Pittsburgh get in this game and have a chance to win?
They have to run the ball. I think that's the key there. Najee Harris has to get going. We've seen teams attack Kansas City with the run before to good success. We saw Javonte Williams do it. So we've seen that. I think that's the way that you can do it. We've seen Austin Eckler have good games against them. Getting Najee Harris out there will be good. I did just see something that happened while we were live. Juju is going to play. He was activated off IR, and he's expected to play in this game.
Interesting.
That could be a very good boost for them to get him back after not having him basically all season. So that'll be really interesting to see. Deontay Johnson, again, who scored a touchdown in that meaningless garbage time game a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I do think Ben has nothing to lose. I think he knows this is the next game he loses is his last game. Yeah. So he probably wants to go out fighting. I'm not sure what his mindset was in saying, we have no chance. Nobody's giving us a chance. We know we have no chance. Not sure your teammates really want to hear that. Like, I get you're retiring, but your teammates are definitely not retiring, especially the reigning defense, the expected defensive player of the year in TJ Watt. Right. Probably not thrilled to hear that one. I think it's a psychological thing. Yeah. Trying to psych out Kansas City there, make them think they got an easy game. So we could definitely see some fireworks in that game. I would not be surprised if that ends up being a one-score game.
I like it because, initially looking at it, I was kind of, going the other way. I was thinking, maybe Kansas City, maybe they just take care of business early and get the Steelers out of there. But, you just look at the Steelers roster. It's like you don't want to doubt them too much, right? Like I know it's Big Ben, and I think, Big Ben has kind of been the detractor in my eyes of this offense. Now, obviously, their offensive line, we can talk about that, but they have a lot of weapons, and you say Juju's been inserted there. Even if he doesn't contribute in the box score per se, put up a bunch of stats, it's still exciting. Like, it's exciting to have Juju back. It's exciting to make the playoffs and have that opportunity to get him back, obviously. So it is interesting. I'm hoping the Steelers don't go in there with that "we're just happy to be here" type of mindset like Ben was kind of proposing there, which I don't think they were. I think, like you said, I think that was more of a mental thing for him, trying to make Kansas City think otherwise. But, Tyreek Hill, a little beat up in that last game. Travis Kelce got a little shaken up at the end. I heard he was okay, but is there any worry there with Kansas City at all? I know there hasn't been any rumblings as far as what I've heard, but I don't know if you've heard different.
No, I don't think there's any worry there. I think, if anybody actually thinks Kansas City is in danger here, it's due to them letting their foot off the gas. But I think, if everything holds true, they should probably be fine.
Gotcha. And I do tend to agree. So just some keys, obviously, for Kansas City. I just said to stay balanced, just to keep pressure off of Mahomes. You don't want TJ Watt to just let loose back there and have one of those field days, a 4-sack game or something that could totally break this game open. Then obviously just attacking Ben, putting pressure on him, turning him over, just making it as easy as possible. For Pittsburgh, like you said, running the football, getting Najee Harris involved, just taking that pressure off Big Ben, not forcing him to throw the ball 40 times, I think could help them a lot. And then on the other side, I mentioned TJ Watt has to be that game breaker. He does have to make some type of turnover in this game in order for them to win, just to lopside it the other way. As far as a parlay, I have a anytime TD for Najee Harris. I have Deontay Johnson plus 50 yards receiving. He's their number one receiver. I have Travis Kelce plus 50 yards receiving. And I have Mahomes plus 250 yards passing. And that's sitting at plus 437.
I like it. The Najee
you think it's a
Harris.
Kelce or a Hill game? It's hard to say.
It is hard to say. I think, man, this will be a great time for me to say that it's probably a Darrell Williams game.
Interesting.
Given the fact that the Steelers run defense is always so terrible, so I like that personally.
Would you like a Darrell Williams touchdown rather than a Najee Harris?
No, I think I would probably rather. I think I would rather have both of them in there than have one of Kelce or Hill.
Okay, so you would go 2 running backs rather than Kelce or Hill. Gotcha. So I may go that route. I think that is a great idea. I didn't realize Steelers' run defense was that bad, so that's a good note. So we both you do have the Chiefs winning just by 1 score. You think it could be maybe not a close game, but one where the Steelers have a last minute chance there.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm with you. I think Kansas City gets the win. I do think it ends up comfortable for them, though. I will say that. Looking at this final game on Monday night, we're going to end it all with the Rams and Cardinals. Obviously, the NFC West showdown. Monday night at 8:15 p.m. It looks like the Rams, last time I checked the spread, it was a 4-point Rams favorite there. And they are playing in LA. So in reality, rule of thumb, that's generally a 1-point spread there. So looking at this game, we got Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray. Neither have won a playoff game in their career. Obviously, Matthew Stafford has a much longer career, but nonetheless, both have a ton of pressure on them. McVay has beaten Arizona 9 out of the last 10 matchups. Something else to note there. So Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury got his first win against Sean McVay this season in that first matchup. And I would say first round exit is going to be a major disappointment for any of these teams. And I'm going to circle back to that just because I have one last fact to put in there. But the Cardinals are actually 8-1 on the road, and they're 3-5 at home. So that's interesting as well. They play a little bit better on the road, at least by their record. First thing I want to ask you on the downside of things, which one of these teams would be the bigger disappointment if they were to go out in the first round?
The Rams. It raises major questions about McVay. 3 years after getting to a Super Bowl, he seemingly can't get past his first matchup. So I mean it's pretty bad. I mean, I know he had Jared Goff and made Jared Goff look pretty decent for those years, but look, I mean, to go out after Matt Stafford comes in and sets all these records with Cooper Kupp, that would be a pretty big letdown for the Rams, who have looked really good all season, added Von Miller, really are in a they're in a perpetual state of going all in because they have not had a first round pick in like 6 years. So they're just in that perpetual always all in state. And they proved it again with, adding Stafford and Von Miller to this team, as well as Odell Beckham. So,
OBJ,
I think it would be a really big disappointment for them to go out. As for the Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury already has major questions around him, given the fact that he's shown the same lack of being able to do any clock management similar to Andy Reid. But I do think Kyler get a little bit more slack, given that they're younger and newer. No DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
So we're gonna see what happens there. I think the Cardinals should be a nice trendy upset pick here, and hopefully this should be another great game.
I was gonna ask you which way were you siding there? You
Cardinals.
Leaning towards the Cardinals?
Cardinals.
And do you think is this one of those games? Because part of my thinking in this game, obviously you don't have D-Hop, and they've struggled a little bit on offense since losing D-Hop, obviously. You still have Christian Kirk, AJ Green, down the line, Rondo Moore, Zach Ertz, obviously the two running backs in the backfield. Do you think this is a game where Kyler has to kind of use his legs a little bit more than he has this season?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're going to have to pull all the tricks out of the book in order to win this game.
That's what I was kind of getting at. I got you. Because, I do agree. I think Kyler, in order to beat the Rams, just because the Rams – they have like so much talent. They, like you said, they always go all in. I think Kyler Murray has to have one of those games that you spoke of at the beginning of the show, one of those superstar games where he makes it felt like I am Kyler Murray. I'm here. I should be in this MVP conversation, even though I've kind of drifted out of it lately. Bring himself back up to the surface here. And I think he does that by using his legs, which is something that he got away from this season. But as far as keys for Arizona, like I said, Kyler needs to play like a superstar. I think you obviously have to turn Matthew Stafford over at least once, get one interception in this game. And then simply control the time of possession as well. So along with Kyler using his legs, use Connor. I don't know if Chase Edmonds in. Do you know?
Chase Edmonds is in.
He's in. So they got
I believe
two workhorses in the backfield. Let them, give them the ball, take a little bit of pressure off Murray. He doesn't have to do everything. For the Rams, it's obvious. Do not turn the ball over Stafford. We cannot have pick sixes in the playoffs. That's just unacceptable at this point. And then trust your guns. And that goes for the offense and the defense. Trust Cooper Kupp. You went to him all season. Continue that. OBJ is there for a reason. They picked up Von Miller for a reason, obviously. He needs to make some plays in this game. But as you said, the Rams have gone all in this season. They really can't afford to go out in the first round. It's going to be a hell of a matchup, and I really don't know which way to go, man. I won't lie to you. So I'm going to go with my gut, I guess. I'm going to go with the Rams, and I do think they cover the 4-point spread. So I will go against you there with the Cardinals, although I do see it going either way in this matchup. And then one last parlay for you, Sam. I do have anytime touchdown. I have Cooper Kupp just because he's there's no explanation there. You don't need an explanation there anymore. I do have James Conner anytime TD, which he's been a workhorse in the red zone. I think he has 16 rushing touchdowns this year. So I do see Conner getting in the end zone. We'll see how Chase Edmonds affects his carries. I have Kyler plus 38.5 rushing yards, and then I have OBJ plus 25 receiving yards.
Go real quick. I caught the OBJ one. I didn't catch the two before that.
So I had anytime TD Kupp, anytime TD Connor, Kyler plus 38.5 rushing yards.
I don't know about the rushing yards simply because that's a big number for Kyler to hit.
Right. And he hasn't rushed the ball that much this year. Not as many design runs.
I do like someone I do like a lot is Zach Ertz. Attacking the middle of the field against the Rams is typically efficient for them.
Where would you put him at? Like 40, 50?
In that 40 to 50 range.
Look into that.
Christian Kirk as well. They're going to look to him deep down the field, as well as AJ Green. There's going to be a lot of those deep mesh crossers concepts.
And they're the type of receivers, they can get 40 receiving yards in one catch.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I may go that route. I don't want to be sitting there hoping for Kyler to run the ball all day, waiting around for that. So it should be interesting, man. We got a plethora of games lined up here, but definitely happy you got to step on here with me today, Sam. I appreciate you helping me out here, and as always, bringing your awesome football mind to the table. Is there anything else before I get you out of here, my brother?
No, that is it for me. Thank you for having me. This was a blast to have, as always. No, always love collaborating with you on this. So
likewise, brother, and I'm sure we will get some stuff together. Maybe if the Eagles can pull together a win tomorrow, maybe we'll see you again throughout the rest of the playoffs. But we'll definitely get you on here in the off season as well. I know you love the draft and all the free agency talks, so we'll definitely do a lot of work this off season. So definitely before we get out of here, make sure you're following my buddy Sam here at Swagman95 on Twitter. Make sure you're following myself at Scotty Drowned on Twitter. And then, of course, make sure you're following DSM Media. That's who NFL Turf Talk is presented by. So make sure you're following DSM Media at DSM_media on Twitter. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Like the video. But thank you for tuning in. Everybody, I want to wish you a very great Saturday and enjoy all the sports. And the reason I say sports, we do got the Sixers in Heat tonight as well in Philly. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But for myself, for Sam, for DSM Media, have a great day, everybody, and enjoy.